Obviously, this is testing punctuation, but we have an kind of order of events here, right? We want to look at these answer choices and start by testing D, maybe C, because those punctuation marks are very strict. In most cases, a semicolon is just going to be used to connect two sentences or to separate two sentences, depending on how you want to look at it. A colon is a little bit more flexible. We have to have a sentence beforehand, but afterwards we don't need a sentence. But let's take a look. Let's just see just basically, do we have sentences here? So where does this thing start? Ooh, I already see a little bit of a problem, but if I look all the way back to where the periods are, there isn't one, so we're starting here. The 2022 Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to 3 pioneers in the field of click chemistry, two-time Nobel laureate Barry Sharpless, who coined the term click chemistry in 1998. Interesting. Carolyn Bertozzi, founder of the Bertozzi Group at Stanford, and Morten Meldal, a professor at the University of Copenhagen in Denmark. So I thought I needed 2 sentences. Are there 2 sentences here? No, but I'm still going to pick D because I see the rare exception, right? 98% of the time, we use a semicolon like a period. It just separates 2 complete sentences. But the 2% is right here, right now, right? It's for complicated lists. Now, I didn't think about that as I was looking at the choices, but I don't need to, because when it's a complicated list, it's gonna be obviously a complicated list. Plus, there's another semicolon here telling me that that's what we're doing. So it's fine for me to then use this other semicolon, even though I'm not thinking about sentences anymore. So notice how our brains kind of go on a certain track. But if we understand the rule and we get those rare exceptions, then we're fine because we know the exceptions exist and we can see as we're going, oh, this is one of those weird cases, right? So don't worry about like, oh, but what if it's this weird thing that could happen? If it happens, you'll notice. That's exactly how we should think about the semicolon rule at the least. Now, why are we using semicolons here? Basically, we have 3 items in this list. I'm going to highlight them. We have 2-time Nobel laureate Barry Sharpless, who coined the term click chemistry in 1998. We have, let's do in pink here, or in green, Carolyn Bertozzi, founder of the Bertozzi Group at Stanford. And finally, Morten Meldal, whatever. Okay, you get the point, right? So those 3 things need to be separated. Now, normally we would just use commas to separate 3 people in a list, and that would be fine. But we're not just giving the people here, right? We're giving the people and we're giving some extra stuff about them. Notice that each of these things that's highlighted already includes an extra comma that's there to add the person's title or their kind of their resume, their job to this list. So if we were using commas like we normally do to separate the names of the people, but then we also had commas in the list to kind of show what their titles are, what they do, it would just get very confusing. We'd lose track of who's who, right? Who is the one who's the founder of the Bertozzi Group? Well, obviously Carolyn Bertozzi is that, but right, you get my point, right? Is we already have these kind of clauses that are extra within the list, and it just gets confusing as we're reading to know where we've moved on from one person and into the next person. So what the semicolons allow us to do here is it changes it up. It's visually different. So now we know the semicolons are showing us where we've moved on from one person to the next. And yes, there are commas within each item of the list because there's extra stuff going on, but those commas can do what they normally do. Just show us where extra clauses are attached without us having to worry about that getting confused with the items in the list. So these are complicated lists. You know, I say complicated because there's a lot going on. But complicated does not necessarily mean hard, does not necessarily mean difficult. Like I said, I did not think about the possibility of a complicated list at all when I first started this question, when I saw those answer choices. But as soon as I started reading it, I was like, oh, there's another semicolon there, there's a list. It's easy to adjust. So that's how you want to approach the grammar in general. I really love this question because I genuinely did not look at the answer or the sentence before I started talking about it. So I was purely talking about the semicolon in the most traditional way. But I was able to adjust because there was evidence that caused me to adjust. That is the grammar in a nutshell. The rules are stuck. The rules are set. Many times there's a thing that's going to work 98% of the time. And that 2% worries a lot of people, but it can't worry you. When the 2% shows up, you'll recognize it. You'll sense that something is different and you'll be able to adjust and get the question right regardless.